I know some of you are struggling, thinking, oh, how am I going to go to work this week and next week? We are 10 days away from Christmas. I cannot possibly get ready. Go to work. You'll go to your Christmas parties today. I've now completed all of our Christmas parties except our Christmas Eve dinner for family in the region, and that's it. I'm very happy about that. I've done no Christmas shopping, though. I want to get to the story of the weekend. There's a lot of news. The mystery drones continue. We've got unrest in China. We got Russia pulling out of Syria. We have a senior Hamas official saying that the deal is closer than ever before, and Prime Minister Netanyahu discussed with President-elect Trump getting the hostages out. Israel has said, see ya, Ireland. They're closing their embassy because of anti-Semitism in Ireland. The Wall Street Journal is reporting the feds can't decide on what to do about interest rates. There is quite a lot on the collapse of ratings at MSNBC and CNN, and there's many other stories. The least interesting of the stories that I pull, Apple plans thinner foldable iPhone to revive growth. So I'm glad I don't own Apple. I rebought my Palantir after I had the CTO of Palantir on. When he booked, I sold it. When he left, I bought it back because I do believe in Palantir. But I am not at all interested in Apple because Apple faces the very difficult process of getting out of China. And you're going to have to get out of China if you're an American company. You're not going to be able to produce in China for much longer. No one's going to buy your stuff. They're going to assume that, like Israeli pagers, Chinese phones are not really just a phone. Now, I want to get to the one big story of the weekend. I'm watching the Army-Navy game, and I get a news bulletin that ABC News and George Stephanopoulos have settled and apologized to Donald Trump. Settled a lawsuit that Donald Trump brought for defamation against ABC and George Stephanopoulos. And I just stopped right then and said, this is extraordinary because you don't settle defamation suits by public officials or public figures. In the law of tort, it's possible to defame someone. You say a wrongful thing, something that's not true, that injures the reputation of another person, and you publish it, meaning you make it available to people with whom you don't have a privileged relationship, like your spouse or your confessor or your lawyer. You make a non-privileged statement that is false, that damages the reputation of another individual, and that individual can sue you for defamation. That individual will win if you do not have truth as a defense and if, in fact, you injured them. The most difficult thing about a defamation case is, really, what's the damages? I mean, you can't defame me. You can't defame Dwayne. I mean, you could if you worked really hard. You could defame a public figure. You'd have to knowingly repeat a malicious lie that injures their reputation with actual malice. So when I saw this, I was stunned. And I went back and I looked at the clip that was at issue. And it's a few minutes interview with Nancy Mace earlier this year where George repeats repeatedly, and I say George only because I've been introduced to him a half dozen times, been on his show a few times. He is good friends with good friends of mine. Never had a unprofessional minute with George. But I thought in this interview with Nancy Mace, when he kept saying, how can a presidential nominee who's been found liable for rape, and he wasn't. Donald Trump was not found liable for rape, and therefore he repeated it again and again and again. Well, I'm not going to replay the clip. I played it in hour number one. The question becomes, really? That's enough to settle a defamation suit? So what did George know? What was his state of mind? Because if George really believed that Donald Trump was actually guilty of rape and had actually been found liable of rape, then he would not have settled, and ABC would not have settled the lawsuit. When you have defamed someone, you actually have malice towards that individual if it's a public official. Now, an official or a public figure is a category of people who put themselves knowingly into the arena of public opinion. And people say bad things about you all the time. That's why I say never read the comment section on anyone's column, because they're usually written by people who've had just a couple of pops too many or aren't really shuffling with a full deck. Left, right, center, doesn't matter. Most commenters, I don't even know why they're doing it. Nobody reads the comments. But they do it anyway, and they amuse each other, and it's a hive. But around George, there are lots of lawyers. ABC is well lawyered. I think they are still a subsidiary of Disney. I don't follow the comings and goings of but Disney, I actually represented Disney, one of my law firms. I'm retired now, and Disney hires good lawyers. And so they had the lawyers involved, and the lawyers told Disney, we're going to settle this. And Trump made an offer of settlement, and the offer of settlement was within policy limits. I read some interesting legal takes on this online yesterday, because it's so astonishing that ABC did this. Now, the headline this morning is that liberals unload on ABC settlement with Trump. Defend George Stephanopoulos. Quote, knee bent, ring kissed. ABC News agreed to settle on Saturday and to pay a Trump charity, the presidential foundation that will be building the library for Trump somewhere, $15 million. Then, today on Fox News is the second story. George Stephanopoulos does not mention the ABC News settlement with Trump's defamation lawsuit on his Sunday show. And then the Lindsay Cornick story at Fox News adds, the ABC News anchor also deleted his X account. That is a rout. That is a complete and utter throwdown. I have no defense. What do you think were in George's emails? Because the discovery was supposed to begin this week, and Donald Trump was going to sit for a deposition, and George Stephanopoulos was going to sit for a deposition. And rather than allow George to sit for a deposition, ABC and its insurance company stroked a check for $15 million. How bad must it be? Now, I am not a litigator. I did advise on a couple of defamation suits. People are always eager in their mind to bring them. They can't get away with that. I'm going to sue them. I always tell my clients, or I used to, I don't have any clients anymore, other than family members who need help on reading a contract. No, I told my old clients, a bad settlement is better than a good lawsuit, number one. Number two, a lie is halfway around the world before truth gets its boots on. That's a Mark Twain quote, and it's true. You can't. And if you touch a libel, it spreads. So if someone says something bad about you and it's not true, pay no attention to it. Don't go on the air and repeat it. Don't point to it. Don't touch it. Don't spread it. Because if you pay attention to a libel, it gets picked up. So just leave it alone. And that's always tough advice. Nobody wants that advice. But then you bring the hammer, and you can't win. Right? You cannot win a defamation suit. Not if you're a public figure. Not if you willingly walk into the arena where everyone throws food at the wall. Are you out of your mind? You're not going to win this lawsuit. Why would you spend this much money? Now, there are some torts like invasion of privacy, which are easier to prove. And business slander, business defamation is a little bit easier to prove. But defamation of Donald Trump, this is the Mount Everest of tort claims. And ABC folded. I don't know if George wanted to fold. Deleting the X account tells me he didn't want to fold, but he folded, which means they could not defend. They were not going to try and defend George's statements and his accusations. That, by the way, should set off a scramble among the Trump legal team for everyone who said anything remotely like what George said. I think it's the first of many lawsuits, not the end of the only one. That's the story of the weekend. I'll bring you more news and headlines when we come back. Don't go anywhere.